And we're back. This one has to go in the Great Thief's repertoire, alright. It may not be quite that easy. These kinds of circus tricks can require years of practice to master. Simply stealing the idea won't be enough. Well, before you run away to do so, would you mind updating the simulation? So this is how Mr. Saint performed his trick. Indeed, but I imagine he would have needed quite a lot of weight, more than him at the very least. Would have taken some serious pull to lift him in the air like that. 30 pounds isn't gonna cut it. He does? I'm not sure I quite see it myself. We'll see how you like it. You'd face some stiff resistance if you tried, I can promise you that. What have you brought me? Yeah, a treat! He's so cute. I can't imagine why he and Ray are buddies. A twee! A spider tree. It's so cute. Also, I'm sorry for taking a longer break. I had to go make coffee. Hey Zephyr, can't stay long, but I gotta eat. Okay, enjoy your food. Thank you for popping by. Mr. Saint used the well to construct a contraption that would send him flying from the stage. Made clever use of 2 ropes. This top is just like the one we saw in the workshop. Yes, but why is it here? And I intend to stay blank until you stop stealing my thoughts. Okay, fine. What about this? Is this interesting? No. Oh, I can go up. And up we go. A pulley and a rope. I suppose the two do tend to go together. Sorry, but the proper pairing in this case is a great thief and a set of handcuffs. Dom tree. That's a good one. This is the rope that was hanging down the well. Do try to be serious, Kay. Actually, she may be onto something. We might want to consider what's really been attached to the end of the rope. Alright. How you doing, Missile? Pork? Oh. I'd hope to have him track that scent again, but clearly it isn't in the cards now. Can I talk to Gumshoe? Yes. I've talked to you. This is looked at. Oh, I guess I haven't talked to Eddie. Oh, and I can look at this again. The pond is home to Warden Legard's beloved alligator. We did absolutely talk about this last time. An interesting talent, though one I'm not particularly envious of. Eddie. It's possible that vital evidence has already been destroyed. Without Kay's reproduction of the scene, we have no hope of finding it. Thank you, that would be very helpful. Me not murdering you in your sleep. As deserved as it would be. Can I walk back here? No. I've looked at everything, so let's see if we can attach shit. Are we gonna realize that these can't go together? Alright. You haven't noticed, Detective? There's something strange about the weight we found. The one weight on its own wouldn't be heavy enough. A single 30-pound weight couldn't have lifted Mr. Saint off the ground. In which case, could there perhaps be some weights missing? Should the need to use them arise, I suppose I should speak to him then. Is there anything else I can attach? See if I can connect these two. Did the elephant eat her food? Yes. The apples in the basket were likely eaten by Azia. Azia. Are you sure about that? And then we must consider the possibility that the cart was moved to somewhere within Asia's reach. A large basket full of apples couldn't have been moved by the wind, which likely means somebody moved it for a reason. There we go. Though before the show had even started, the cart had been moved and its apples eaten. Yes, that seems to be the most probable timeline. Let's update the recreation, okay? Boop, 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 boop. Little wonder it smelled of animals. It was being used for the elephant. So they vanished overnight. Quite possibly. Walk over here, buddy. Still appears to be locked. No. Relax. Alright. Buddy, can is I would like to Oh, maybe I need to Give me the fucking... How do I obtain the metal detector? Give it to me. Gumshoe. Driving me crazy. I just need to connect these. Are you gonna make me do this? Oh. Detective, I have need of one of your secret weapons. The metal detector, if you would be so kind. Yes. Hey, look, I'm on the screen. Closer you get, more strongly it'll react. When it starts going wild like this, give me the order to examine the spot where I'm standing. Oh. Anyway. Okay, got it. Oh, here we go. I gotta wiggle harder. I don't imagine a gold coin would stay hidden for long in a prison yard. All the coins from the big coin hunt we hold once every 2 weeks. A jelly donut? It's the show no a treasure hunt. This is a prison or a playground. Oh, well that was fast. I don't see anything metallic. What did the detective pick up? I understand. As inside you can pick up with a magnet. Six or seven. Are you making this up as you go along? Look his little shocked face. He's so offended. Seemingly ordinary magnet. It must be nice to be so easily entertained. Regardless, the investigation must continue. They're the same as the waiters we found by the well. They must be from Mr. Saint's trick. Did someone hide these here on purpose? We're all together. Like 150 pounds? I guess Simon doesn't weigh very much. Or Simeon. Alligator! What's the matter, detective? What? Are you sure it's not responding to the weights we just found? And she's gone. Allie hasn't been herself lately. That's the name, Allie, the warden's favorite pet. Is something I shouldn't agree with? Alright. I highly doubt even an alligator could swallow a 30-pound lump of iron. What did the metal detector actually pick up? And why would someone hide those weights? Perhaps I missed something when I looked at the equipment by the well. Hey, could you recreate the scene again? You want us to re-examine this? Okay. What am I supposed to deduce? Looks like this was designed for raising and lowering a bucket. No sign of the bucket, though. What am I looking for? Look at our shit that we have. I am legitimately confused. Look at the history real quick. The pulleys. Well, the pulleys were there. When I am 9 p.m. I legitimately don't know. I'm very confused. Maybe I don't have enough logic. I literally don't have anything else to connect. One of the ropes is missing. Oh. Got it. I'm dumb. That was my bad. Think about the two recreations, the one during the performance and the one we're looking at right now. There's a major difference between the two. Namely, that one of the ropes is missing. Mr. Saint's trick wouldn't work with only the items we see before us. Where did the missing rope go? I think one of the pieces of evidence we've collected might tell us exactly that. What shows us where the missing rope went?
Take that!
This rope was found beside Knight's body. Yes, it must have been the other rope used in Mr. Saint's trick. Yes, that this rope did indeed have a weight attached to it. But it wasn't any of the iron weights we found. Those were hidden in the bushes and replaced with something else. Think about what the rope we found in the workshop was related to. Do that and you'll soon figure out the answer. The weight dropped down the well in place of the iron weights was, just Knight. Just tied Knightly to it, it's fine. It can only have been Knight's body that was dropped down the well. Yes, somebody first swapped out the weights used for Mr. Saint's trick. Then Mr. Saint used the contraption to make his exit from the stage. So when he let the rope around his body loose, both the rope and Knight's body fell to the bottom of the well. The rope was never used to restrain Knight. It was used to suspend his body halfway down the well. From this, we can easily see why most of the weights were hidden. Precisely, then we can further deduce that they were hidden by the killer. Oh, the killer thought of that, which is why they used this. Do.
Take that!
It may not be immediately obvious, but if I jam this in here and... Well, that blew up in my face. The blood from getting everywhere. Oh right, the tarp. The bloody tarp. I'm a dipshit. I was just thinking that the stabbing implement was still in his neck, so he wasn't bleeding all over the place. This tarp was found with the body. I think it's likely that Knight's corpse was wrapped in it. What doing is proving that the body did go down. No, not quite. But if Mr. Saint truly is the killer, why would he need to go to such lengths to commit his crime? Knight's body fell down the well when Mr. Saint used his contraption during the show. Therefore, it reveals nothing about where the real killer actually was or what they were doing at the time. It's only designed to throw suspicion onto those who were not at the show. That was the killer's goal, to make us think that the crime took place during the show. In other words, they used the well contraption to construct an alibi. Ms. Berry, what exactly did Mr. Saint put his contraption together? In which case, the killer must have switched the weights out for the body after that point. Did Canis know about this contraption? Even if he did, he wouldn't have been able to do much with it. I highly doubt that he taught his dog to suspend bodies halfway down wells. Which means Carnus isn't the killer. The basket was moved the night before the circus performance, and we've deduced that the weights were switched out for the body at around the same time. Then the next question we should be asking is, why was the cart moved? I think I can hazard a guess. The cart would have been blocking that door, which can only mean... I can't believe she actually asked a guard for help. That was fast. Oh, the warden keeps a hold of that? Alright. That's not sus at all. Where are you, Fifi? Warden the guard is the only one with a key. Meaning if somebody did open the door, they would have had to get it from her somehow. All these breakers, they must control the electricity for the whole prison. Well, I doubt they came here by mistake thinking it was a break room. They must have come to tamper with the switches. Come to think of it, wasn't there something that lost power? What might have lost power had a breaker been flipped? The cameras?
Take that!
There was a 3-hour gap in the security camera footage. It seems very likely. It's true that shutting off the cameras would have made things easier for them. Which means the killer would have had to be someone who has access to the breakers. It seems only one person has the key. It couldn't be, could it? Breaker data jotted down in my organizer. Suspicious. Miss Lang. I miss Wolf Boy. He was much easier to deal with than these fucks. Oh. You're back, huh? Good morning, Mr. Winner. Good morning, Mr. Edgeworth. I see you've made an early start. And I see you've made a late one, Judge Gaviel. This is not my only case. I'm a busy woman. Not all of us enjoy the freedom of a prosecutor relieved of his only current responsibility. Ugh. Oh, I do apologize. I meant, of course, an associate attorney. Oh, you said a big word. You said asinine. Good job, Eustace. We'll see about that. Eustace, let us begin the investigation of the yard.
Hold it!
That won't be necessary. We've already finished investigating the yard and won quite the prize in the process. But I'm supposed to be the winner. Your Honor. I'd like to revisit your theory from yesterday, in order to thoroughly disprove it. That's... I would caution you to choose your words carefully, Mr. Edgeworth. I am sure you remember, your badge is in my hands. I am unconcerned. How could I forget? You've told me several dozen times already. Perhaps you'd care to try a different threat.
Overruled.
You have been warned repeatedly, yes, and each time my words seem to have fallen on deaf ears. Allow me to make this crystal clear. The committee cannot and will not tolerate insubordination.
Objection!
The fate of my badge and the whims of the committee are of no concern to me now. The only thing that concerns me is proving Simeon Saint's innocence. Interesting, and spoken like a true defense attorney. In that case, I shall be equally uncompromising. In the name of the goddess of justice. Eat shit, you little bitch. I will strike you down without mercy. And when I am done, your career as a prosecutor will be over as well. I hope you do not come to regret this. My theory remains the same as when I related it to you yesterday. Mr. Casarano did not see Mr. Knight's body when he passed through the tunnel. As such, the body could only have been dropped down the well during the show. We both know the only one who could have dropped the body down there during the show is Mr. Saint. That's still your assertion, and you can prove it, of course. What Eustace means to say is we've received the final autopsy report just ahead of our arrival. Can I see it then? She really is a very busy woman, busy looking after baby Winner. The victim appears to have died the night before the body was discovered. In other words, the night before the show. Yeah, we figured that out. The cause of death is as stated. It seems the wound is 4 inches deep. Simeon State was off stage for a period of 15 minutes. That was plenty of time for him to throw the victim's body down the well. Judge Gabrielle hasn't investigated the yard yet, which means... I've heard there may be something of a flaw with your theory, Your Honor. You seem very confident of that. But do you have any evidence to prove it? Yes, I think I just might. Okay.
Hold it!
Isn't it possible that Mr. Casarato simply failed to notice the body? Assistant to the Associate Attorney, you have been through the secret passage, have you not? I noticed mud on you yesterday, on that charming key in your hair to be precise. Answer me truthfully, in the name of the goddess. Would you or would you not have noticed a body that had one been present? There you have it. Mr. Casarano did not see a body, which means there was no body there to see.
Hold it!
Could you talk us through your reasoning on that a little more? The day before the performance, Mr. Knight borrowed the keys from Mr. Casarato. Or more specifically, the key to his cell. Mr. Knight then used the key to leave his cell and enter Mr. Saint's cage. Mr. Saint took Mr. Knight to the yard in that cage, and that's where he killed him. The following day, Mr. Casarato crawled his way through the tunnel, but there was no body there yet. No, his body did not pass through the tunnel until sometime after Mr. Casarato had crawled through it. Mr. Casarato used the tunnel right around the time the show was starting. The body was discovered just after the performance ended. From which you deduce that the body could only have been thrown down the well during the show. Yes, and who the culprit must be. We both know the only one who could have dropped the body down there during the show is Mr. Saint.
Hold it!
Are you sure about that? Could nobody else have done it? I understand that Ms. Berry was on stage for the entire performance, and most of the prisoners were watching the show. Those who were not have plausible alibis. What about the guards? They too were watching the show, as was the warden. How can you be so sure? A guard could have easily approached the well unnoticed. None of the guards left their posts during the show. I've checked this for myself, you know. I took statements from each and every one of them. Ugh, she's thorough, I'll give her that. Are you finally ready to accept the truth that the killer could only have been simian sane? Judge Gaviel hasn't carried out a full investigation. Okay. I should review the evidence. Boop. 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 Present. Oh, wait. Guess this?
Objection!
No, not that. Not that at all. I don't believe it for myself. Okay. I'm going to have to be more careful next time. Alright. You've been dropped down the boat. I just had the wrong statement, as per usual. Right evidence, wrong statement. It's fine. There we go. Sound dropped off. We win. We are wiener. Sorry, Your Honor, but there's something else you're going to have to take into account. The well in the yard was rigged up to create a certain unique contraption. A contraption? Go on. You will recall that Mr. Saint was sent flying from the stage by the elephant. I do, just before he was about to be absent for some time. He was only able to fly through the air thanks to a weighted rope he tied around himself. Dropping the weighted end down the well allowed him to complete the trick.
Objection!
Used his shut up.
Hold it!
It's simple, really. He kept the weight from falling by using a stake to keep the rope in place. With a second rope, he was able to pull the stake free, thereby controlling when the weight was dropped. We have found evidence to suggest that the original weight was replaced with Knight's body. This was done by the real killer in order to create an alibi. Well, fuck. The estimated time of death tells us that the murder took place early in the morning. The killer could have tampered with the contraption in the time between the murder and the show.
Objection!
I don't like Eustace's voice. I don't think I'm supposed to, but like... Ow. My ears. I think is the number one most likely. Objection. Mr. Saint was the killer. He could have simply done as Judge Gaviel theorized without these extra steps. Ms. Barry. Does anyone else know how Mr. Saint trick works? Look, I like it when she's smug on my behalf. Thank you, Regina. She's not as cute as her pixel art. I don't know what about her line art looks different. But I remember her pixel art looking cuter. And there you have it. What's up, my dear bitch? Interesting, you've certainly been diligent in your investigation. And yet, I fail to comprehend your actions still. Why do you not work to do what is right? Is what I'm doing wrong? If so, who is it that deems it so? How can you not grasp even that? How can you not see that you are doing wrong at this very moment? You are a prosecutor, and yet you aid the defense. This flies in the face of common sense. You are breaking every rule in the book. I think of only what is right and just, and I act as I see fit in each situation I am confronted with. This is the path I have chosen, and whether you can comprehend that choice is immaterial. But if you mean to stand in my way, I will fight back with all I can bring to bear. Perhaps the goddess of justice is testing me. Very well, if it is her will that we must fight, then I shall end this once and for all. I'm going to concuss a prosecutor right now. Listen well, Mr. Edgeworth, for there is another reason why only Mr. Saint can be the killer. Who's up? If the body was moved from the yard to the workshop, then Mr. Knight must have first been brought here to the yard from his cell. The only person who had that opportunity to do that is Simeon Saint, and thus he remains the only plausible suspect. Mr. Saint took a cage with him to Mr. Knight's cell. But why would he do that? And why take such an unwieldy object all the way to the holding cells? It's a little bit sus. But we've all met Mr. Saint. That's exactly the kind of thing he would do. It's entirely plausible that he took the cage with him out of absent-mindedness and nothing else. It may be plausible, but it is no more or less plausible than him having helped Mr. Knight to escape. Ugh, I need some real solid evidence if I'm going to get her to budge. Preferably before she hits me with that extendo gavel.
Hold it!
You seem to think Mr. Knight was killed here in the yard. When do you think he was brought here? Sometime between midnight and 8 a.m. the day of the show. It could have only been during that time. In other words, between the end of rehearsal and the start of the performance. As I was saying, if the body was moved from the yard to the workshop.
Hold it!
Was there really no other way he could have come here? Mr. Knight was awaiting trial. If he, a random non-inmate, had openly entered the prison proper, he surely would have been noticed. And presumably none of your witnesses have testified to having seen such a thing. Precisely. Praise be to the goddess of justice for granting you this insight. So, as you will agree, it can only be that Mr. Knight was brought over here in secret. The only person who had the opportunity to do that is Simeon Saint.
Hold it!
Why is there a bird up there? You're certain that nobody else had the opportunity. Did you see there's a fucking parrot up here? I need to remind you that we are in a prison. The entire facility is monitored at all times. Anything out of the ordinary would have been spotted.
Hold it!
But Mr. Saint was under the same scrutiny, was he not?
Overruled!
The warden has granted the members of the circus troupe special access. Made a new emoji for the lab, I gotta see.
Yes. Now kiss.
I love it. As a member of that troupe, under the supervision of Ms. Berry, he is the only person who is free to wander where he wills.
Objection!
It seems you've forgotten something, Your Honor. Forget is not a word in my vocabulary, Mr. Edgeworth. Did you forget? Very well then. Recall this fact, if you will. You claim that Mr. Saint is the only person who is free to walk around the prison. But there was a brief period of time on the day of the crime in this prison. A time that it would have been impossible, where it would have been possible for anyone to move through the prison entirely unmonitored. I think it's this one.
Take that!
Mr. Saint is far from the only one who had the opportunity. Eustace... You're so fucking stupid. What are you doing? We previously established that the time code on the security footage was off by 3 hours. And from this we can deduce that there must have been a power outage lasting for that length of time, during which anyone could have moved around the prison undetected. Do you mean to say our killer intentionally created this 3-hour gap? There was no simple camera malfunction. Is that even possible? It sure as fuck was. All you needed was, this.
Take that!
Our investigation of the yard turned up something rather interesting. A panel of breakers, one which can be used to cut the power to the security cameras. We also learned that the door to the power room may have also been opened around that time of the murder. Kid, you gonna leave a mark one day. Oh shit. Such a shame to see one so capable fall so short of the mark. Mr. Edgeworth knows what he's doing. Then how does he explain the lock on the power room door? Those breakers are vital to the prison's infrastructure, so I very much doubt anyone could have gained access with the power to the power room's key so easily.
Objection!
No, but one person could have. I beg your pardon. That person, the killer, had easy access to it, in fact. And what's more, their position here is such that nobody would dare question them.
Objection!
There's only one person who meets these criteria. I can hardly believe it myself, but I have to follow where the logic leads. The person who had access to the power room key was... where? Here's our darling. Here she is. Fifi Lagarde.
Take that!
The real culprit is... Warden Lagarde. Oh, just look at you, aren't you the cutest little poochie woo? He's not just a pretty face, Missile also has quite the nose for sweet things. It seems he's smelling something very sweet indeed, and it's coming from you. Oh, darling, you're making me blush. I'm not even wearing perfume. And perhaps it is the sweet stench of death. You are a regular poet, aren't you? I had no idea. But if I didn't know better, I'd almost think you were calling moi the killer. That is precisely what I'm calling you. Eustace is having a bad time. Warden Lagarde is the killer? Mr. Edgeworth, you realize what you're saying? Oh, such a naughty boy. How could he suspect me? I'm the one in charge around here. It's like we're in a murder mystery, aren't we? We are. I never noticed how many rings she wears. And equally far-fetched, this is preposterous.
Hold it!
Sadly, it is not, although I can hardly believe it myself. But this is where the evidence points, and we must trust in the evidence. This piece of evidence proves that Warden Lagarde is the killer. She really full-on smooches that animal. Yeah, she really does. Like, mouth on mouth. Smoochy woochies. Press the fist. Oh, it's his body? Okay. Sorry, I had to look it up.
Take that!
I don't know why Fifi smells funny, but I guess she smells like sweetness. Your scent betrays you, Warden. And here is your accuser. There goes my voice. The police dog. We had him track down a sweet scent that was lingering around Knight's body back when it was first found. He now appears to be smelling that same scent, and it's coming from you. Oh, darling, you're priceless. You really are. Your evidence is a whiff of suspicion. Verity, dear, do put him in his place. I forgot that was Courtney's name. Gabrielle. You good? You look upset, sweetie. Do you need a minute? It seems Judge Gabrielle may have reached a similar conclusion to myself. You believe this to be no mere coincidence, Mr. Edgeworth? I do. After all, she had the key, and the scent found lingering on the body is hers as well. We're just one or the other, we might be able to brush it off as coincidence, however... Indeed, then it seems a conclusion approaches. Perhaps we should hear what the Warden has to say for herself. We should, and we have. This case will finally be at an end. You're all being simply awful. Stop looking at me like that. Me, the killer? How could I possibly do such a thing? I didn't do it. Verity told me everything she knows about the case, sweetie. The victim died in his cell, so by your logic, I would have had to kill him there. But how am I supposed to have moved the body, especially as I never went into the prison? I was too busy with work, you see. I was cooped up in my office until right before the show began. Check if you like, you won't find a record anywhere of me having entered or left the prison proper. I haven't the first idea of what harebrained theories you little scams have cooked up, but I'm innocent. There's simply no way I could be the killer. Oh dear, I'm afraid you are the one making things difficult. As I just said, I never went into the prison. If you think I'm lying, go ahead and check the records. She clearly wants us to check those records, which means they won't help us. We'll just have to find another way of getting the truth out of her. Please, Mr. Edgeworth, stop being a big silly. You've made a boo-boo and you know it. Just a little boo-boo.
Hold it!
Judge Gabrielle told you everything? Are you close? Thick as thieves, darling. Why do you ask? Are you jealous? Jealous of what? I had to ask Warden the guard for a lot of information on the first day of our investigation. Seemed only right that I share some information in return. Oh, Verity, you do have to make it sound so awfully dry. I thought we had a lovely chat. I simply shared the truth in our conversation. It was the least I could do. I'm not sure what's going on, but these two, they're terrifyingly formidable together.
Hold it!
The murder took place in his cell. You seem very happy to accept that. And why shouldn't I be? It seems the most likely place for it to have happened without drawing attention. And besides, they found Knight's body in his cell. Yes, but that was from being struck by Mr. Caserato. I needn't tell her that, I suppose. I take it there's been no testimony to the contrary. What does it matter? Knight being killed in his cell doesn't go against any of the facts anyway. I do love the slow blink. The slow blink animation when she's staring directly at Edgeworth is really haughty. But how am I supposed to move the body, especially as I never went into the prison? I was too busy with work, you see. I was cooped up in my office until right before the show. Okay. We didn't press this one.
Hold it.
Do you have evidence that you didn't enter the prison? Please, darling, let me finish. Okay.
Hold it.
So you were in your office the whole time, and you didn't notice anything unusual? No, I can't say that I did. You didn't notice anything missing? I must confess I'm a rather messy girl. And a forgetful one at that. I put something down and it's lost forever. It's a curse, darling, a curse. I've even lost some important evidence recently. It was gone. Poof, just like that. What? She still has a job? Honestly, if someone came into my office and took something, it might be years before I noticed. It seems like I'll need more than a power room key to expose her. On the day of the murder, I was working in my office and looking for something I'd misplaced. Even if I had a reason to go into the prison, I simply wouldn't have had the time. Press. Sure, maybe you didn't go through the main entrance to the prison. But what if you took another route? Oh, come now, sweetie. Surely you don't mean that awful, filthy tunnel they discovered. Why, until yesterday, I had no idea it even existed. No, you had another way in, I'm certain of it. A route that didn't require going through the main entrance or the tunnel. Yeah, here. This is her, like, little private yard area.
Take that.
This is the route you took to get in the prison. Is it, darling? And how would that have worked? Didn't you say yourself that I didn't use it? Oh, it's right here. I'm stupid. It goes through here. My bad. I don't know what this is. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. We know what we're doing. I just pointed out the wrong spot. It's fine. Press, 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 press.
Hold it.
There's even a door right here and everything. I'm done. You're doing great! Yeah, you tried, so. There's a fence. Warden, you took Knight from his cell and brought him to your office, which just happens to be connected to the yard. If you had a way through the fence, then you would have been able to circumvent both the entrance and the tunnel. A gold star for creativity, darling, and how would I have gone through the fence, hmm? The extremely high fence, topped with razor wire and thousands of volts of electricity going through it. The fence's electricity supply can be cut off from the power room. And only you had the key, Warden. No one but you could have done it. Utterly ridiculous. The power room is on the prison side of the yard, which is a dumb place for it to be. Who designed this place? Warden Lagarde was on the detention side. How would she even have reached the power room? Exactly, Verity, darling. Well, clever puss, you've dug yourself a real hole now. Ugh. If there's no record of Warden Lagarde having entered the prison proper, then the idea that she could have shut off the fence by using the breaker is out of the question. Ugh. You called me big guy. Usually people only call Gumshoe that. But if I don't find a solution, she might still wriggle out of this. Take a deep breath, not freak out and look. I want to be a bog boy. You can be a bog boy if you want. No matter how you look at it, Warden Lagarde couldn't have done it alone. Hmm?
Objection!
The bestest bug boy, indeed. I missed what she said. I'm sure it was important. Mr. Edgeworth, if you cannot find a... You aren't doing yourself any favors by obstructing justice with your silence. That was a reflexive objection. But now that I've yelled it, if I don't come up with an answer, it's all over. I have one more thing to add, if you'll permit me. Something that explains how the warden could have shut off the breaker from the wrong side of the fence. Yes, because it's not as impossible as it seems. An accomplice! She couldn't have done it alone, but what if she wasn't alone? My brain is very wrinkly, thank you. I believe that Warden Lagarde had an accomplice.
Overruled.
Enough. You disappoint me, Mr. Edgeworth. The inmates of this prison are all issued with security bracelets. I see that you've realized your error, and we are, of course, within the prison grounds. Where not only the bracelets are worn, but even the guards surveil each other for signs of wrongdoing. And despite all that, no one noticed Mr. Cassiano's escape. The only ones who are free to roam are the animals, and they most certainly could not have operated the breaker. No, so our accomplice must be a human.
Overruled.
Then who did it, given that it cannot have been a prisoner or a guard?
Objection!
I wouldn't be so quick to rule out either, Your Honor. The fact is... Even the guards surveil each other. Sign me up. AK. You want to be a guard so you can rat out other guards. There's one person, someone whose movements weren't restricted. And I have just the evidence to show who that free-roaming prisoner was. Mr. Sawit. This is one of the prisoner's bracelets. Indeed, a broken bracelet belonging to a certain self-proclaimed model prisoner. What do you mean? And who is this prisoner? Tap, tap. Frank Sawit, Warden Lagarde's favorite inmate. Oh no, she's getting kisses. Little foxy kisses. I love this fox, he's so happy. It's strange, isn't it, Warden? That he was able to keep his broken bracelet hidden and wander freely about the prison all the while. Lap that sweat up, little puppy. It couldn't be the case that he was permitted some sort of special leeway, could it? Although, you are in the habit of giving such leeway to certain others. Hannes, for example. Mr. Edgeworth, this is pure speculation.
Objection!
Eat shit, woman. In that case, why don't we ask Mr. Sarwood himself? I'm confident he will confirm for us that he and Warden Lagarde were accomplices in this crime. If the two of them had worked together, a certain route into the prison becomes viable. The real route by which Knight was moved from his cell to the prison proper. Recall that there were two big obstacles in her path. First, the security camera outside Knight's cell. And second, the electrified fence in the yard. But she was able to remove both obstacles in one fell swoop. By having Mr. Sarwitz shut off the corresponding breakers. Alright, Mr. Edgeworth, you've had your fun. And you still deny it, Warden Lagarde? No, darling, you've got me. I admit it. Warden? Tell me this isn't true. Sorry, Verity, honey, I'm afraid it is. Frankie helped me do it. As Mr. Edgeworth said, I had Frankie switch off the breaker. But we didn't kill Knight, did we? No, sweetums, no, we didn't. What? Warden, explain yourself. Oh, Verity, dear, I doubt your precious goddess will want to hear my excuses now. She is all merciful. You have but to confess and you shall be saved. Oh gosh, all right. I was being threatened. I had no choice but to do as he said. Canis, that awful assassin. Canis. How long has it been since that awful man came here to my beautiful prison? Wouldn't the world be easier if when you caught someone in a lie, they just go, oopsie daisy? I know. I'll never forget the day he arrived. The moment we were alone, he said this to me. You should know that I have other dogs. Dogs not confined to this fine institution. Our little fox is so upset. Others? Yes, very loyal dogs. Dogs who will do anything I ask of them. Of course he wasn't talking about real dogs. He was talking about his very human cronies. Oh, I like the thing on her hat. This little cell door with a key on it. And then he said one last thing. Recommend that you take care in how you treat me during my stay here. I wouldn't want to have to set my dogs on you or your precious family. I had no choice. I gave him that cell. I gave him everything he asked for. Everything? Wait, is that how he became the fixer? Yes, darling, I obeyed his every command and smuggled in for him all that he wanted. Eventually, I brought dear sweet Frankie into our little conspiracy. He agreed right away, of course, because I made things easier for him too. So you were smuggling in contraband? How exactly? Once a week, late at night, Frankie would shut off the breakers. That allowed me to go from my office to the yard without being seen by the cameras. I simply dropped the packages down the well on the prison side and went back through the fence. Each of them spritzed with a little of my perfume. So that's what the sweet smell was. Yes, it was a signal for Canis's dog. When he picked up the scent, he would fetch the packages and bring them back to his master. We had to make sure Rocco wasn't in his cell at the time, of course. Can't have been easy? I guess not. Oh, we're all very much creatures of habit here at the prison, darling. Everything runs to a schedule. Meals, exercise hours, that sort of thing. We knew when he wasn't there. And that adorable little bear of his freezes with fright at the sight of Canis's dog, poor thing. So there was no risk of him raising the alarm either. She has oversight over everything here at the prison, which makes her the perfect mule. With her on his side, Canis couldn't fail. Frankie would sneak out early again in the morning to switch the breakers back on, and our work was done. Apart from fixing the time codes on the cameras, which I would do later when I got the chance. You've shared a great deal, Warden. The Goddess of Justice will surely take your honesty into account. I've been the most dreadful fool, I know I have. I'm supposed to be the one in charge. The day of Knight's murder was also supposed to be one of our delivery days. And so Frankie, bless his heart, did his usual work with the breakers. But there was no package for me to deliver that day, so I didn't go out into the yard. So that's the secret behind the fixer system, and why she was... That's why you were interrogating Mr. Canis over and over. Exactly. I was trying to track down those horrible hench people of his. Well, that's a weird sprite. You good in there, or she's become Shadow? I borrowed everything the police had on that rotten scoundrel. I watched his every move, intercepted every letter he wrote. That's less fun. His letter, then I suppose she must know about his correspondence chess games, too. But no matter what I did, I couldn't turn up any clues as to what his underlings were. Living in fear like this, it's... Oh, you just can't comprehend it. As you have just heard for yourself, Mr. Edgeworth. The words of Warden Lagarde's confessions have cleansed her of all suspicion. Surely there is no need to hound her any longer. Has she really been cleared of all suspicion, though? Is there more about her to uncover? Yeah, I don't believe this. I'm sorry, Your Honor, but this conversation isn't over yet. And I think the Goddess of Justice would agree. So you mean to make her suffer even more than she already has? Unfortunately, her suffering under Mr. Canis does nothing to prove her innocence in Knight's murder. She admitted to herself that she knew of, and even facilitated the so-called Fixer's delivery route. I believe she used the same route to move Knight's body. And where is your evidence, Mr. Edgeworth? In the fact that the sweet smell on Knight's body is the exact same scent Warden Lagarde uses to signal a delivery. What do you make of that? Well, that's because we've done it so many times by now, the whole well probably smells of it. Some of it must have just rubbed off on his body. That does match the statement that Mr. Casarano provided. Nice. His words would seem to suggest that the smell had permeated the well. You've been rendered speechless, I see. Then I hereby move to adjourn this session of court. Killer. What can I do? Is this as far as we go? Yes, Eustace, it seems we are. By the power invested in me, this court is adjourned. That's Eddie. It sure was, I was right. Judge G? Okay. Fender. Yeah, bitch. Baby honey, you can't. What are you doing, Mr. Fender? Are you trying to get yourself charged with contempt of court? Ah, yes, I had forgotten that you were his real attorney, Mr. Fender. The pained smile was funny. Work, you say? Somehow I don't believe you've worked a day in your life. A day in your life. Oh man, she's after him. Get him. Now, amusing, but what is there left to ask? Thieves. Do I? He's trying to coax Warden Lagarde into giving something away. Ask yourself, why would she go through all the trouble of sending Knight's body on such an odd journey? because she wanted to frame Mr. Canis. If he was convicted of committing murder here, that could have been grounds for a transfer to another prison. Most likely a more secure facility. Precisely. She saw her opportunity and seized it. Saint can't not be the killer. Okay. It's not fair. Aw, Eustace, I'm sorry, buddy. Dumb, whiny little brat. Well, Warden, are you happy to testify further? I have the right to remain silent. Of course, how could I refuse this silver-tongued devil? You did smooch him right on the face. Eddykins, you have such a way with words. Oh no. You good? Besides, one can't tell the truth without telling the whole truth, can one? I'm simply dying to tell all verity, darling. Do say you'll let me. Smash, 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 smash. As you wish, court is unadjourned. No one can believe Eddie did his job well. Everyone is shocked. Thank you for the timely intervention. The comma should be inside the quotes. The comma should be inside the quotes. We're not in England. No comment at all. Miles McSmiles? Get the fuck out of here, Addie. I shall. Fabulous, let's get started. Uncle Ray can go directly to hell. My truth. I really don't think anyone could have done it but that dreadful man Canis. There's no telling what went on between him and the victim. Perhaps he simply took a disliking to him. He's certainly the type. But whatever the sordid details, it was him. He stabbed that poor man to death. And then he had his dog dispose of the body. That simply has to be what happened. And the victim, Mr. Knight, yes. I did him the most terrible disservice. Yes, you killed him. I suppose you could put it that way. If I weren't such a sorry excuse for a warden, this would never have happened. And that's why I have to clean this terrible mess. Warden Lagarde, as ever, your honesty is truly to your credit. As I'm certain Mr. Knight is looking down and weeping tears of gratitude. You've clearly never met Mr. Knight. Us? What have you got for me? You seem very confident in your assertion. Why is that? Because all the other children in my little home are absolute sweethearts. They have faith in themselves and in one another. They have faith in the gods, in me. And they work hard every day to be better themselves. None of them would dare commit murder. That's a very touching reason, indeed. And I don't believe a word of it, seeing as how most of them committed murder to get in here. But Canis, ooh, he's wrong to the core. He's the one who would do something like that. There's no telling what went on between him and the victim.
Hold it!
Knight was being kept in a holding cell when Mr. Canis was in the prison proper. What could possibly have happened between them that they were on the opposite ends of the facility? Prisons aren't as big as they seem, you know. All kinds of awful things can happen. But Knight only arrived 2 days before he was murdered. Can't imagine anything significant happening in that short a space of time. Edgeworth, really? I mean, I know you're just trying to get your client off, question mark, but... Then you don't know Canis, my dear. He'd find a way, I'm sure of it. Perhaps they simply took a disliking to him. He's certainly the type. How could he take a disliking to somebody all the way over in the holding cells? Well, I'm just plucking possibilities out of the air, darling. As I said, there's no telling what really went on between them. You're so awfully serious, aren't you? Not that I mind, of course. Why is she looking at me like that? So noble, so dashing in that marvelous suit, so clever. The running gag of everyone falling for Edgeworth on sight for no reason. I can feel myself becoming your biggest fan, darling. I really can. You. He's like, I'm gonna go touch that fence. It's reserved for Phoenix. Indeed. No one else entraps him with complicated feelings. Ooh. I wasn't prepared for that mental onslaught. But whatever the sordid details, it was him. He stabbed that poor man to death.
Hold it!
What more can you tell us about those sordid details? Well, we all know Canis once did for a living. I doubt the killing part gave him much trouble. Especially as the victim was already injured. His neck, I think? Couldn't turn his head to the right, poor dear. That's what they told me when they brought him in anyway. They must make some sort of report for the warden when new prisoners are admitted. You seem keen for us to think you didn't know much about Knight. That's because I didn't, sweetie, and the victim was simply a fun target to that monster, nothing more. I expect Canis used the chisel that was hidden in the chest set, don't you? Awfully grisly business. Just imagine, the man probably didn't even have time to cry out. Oh, I see. Thank you for your thoughts. They were very helpful. Actually, I'd like to hear about them in a little more detail, if you don't mind. Oh, Mr. Edgeworth, you're making me blush. I could chat with you all day. Gross. Oh, don't look so nervous, darling. I'm only teasing. Of course, we can talk about them some more. What is this? An easy work.
Hold it!
You seem to have very strong feelings about Mr. Canis. Well, of course I do. I told you what he said to me. What an absolute menace he was to interrogate. He could slip it out of anything, the snake. And that infuriating self-satisfied look on his face when they took him back to his cell. Ah, my blood just boils thinking about it. I certainly don't blame her on that count. And then he had his dog dispose of the body. Alright. We didn't get anything new out of pressing the 2 new statements. Did I press this one? Which chess set would that be precisely? The one he brought in, sweetie. You do try to keep up. The victim was a certified chess fanatic, or so I'm led to believe. But that naughty boy snuck a chisel inside it. Can you imagine? How does she know about the chisel in the chess set? Only a few people were supposed to know about that. After all, we only learned about it thanks to certain deductions we made. So, how did she find out? Of course, in the hands of a killer like Canis, even a chisel could serve as a deadly weapon. Would have been easy work for that vile assassin. I don't know why she would know that.
Objection!
Is this right? Okay. The music dropped out. I was like, am I about to take damage? Warden the guard. You strike me as being more careful than the image you project suggests. Oh, Mr. Edgeworth, please call me Fifi, or Sweetie Pie if you prefer. Ugh. However, I think you may have been a little less careful than you realize in this instance. Aren't you just the most adorable little creature? Don't be embarrassed, we're all family here. Yeah. Ugh. No! You said earlier that you don't know much about Knight. In which case, I find it rather strange that you know about the chisel. Oh, well, of course I do, darling. Don't you... Do you think we don't check prisoners when they come in?
Objection!
You're not talking your way out of this, Warden. That is entirely irrelevant. You know it. Knight didn't bring the chess set into the prison himself. Brought in by Mr. Saint when he came to visit. Knight wouldn't have had it with him when he arrived. Oh, well, fuck me. I mean, of course, when Mr. Saint came in,
Objection!
You checked him? I find that hard to believe, because if you did, that makes your story all the stranger. If you found the chisel, then why did you not confiscate it there and then? Judge Gabriel, did you tell anyone about the hidden compartment in the chess set? I did not. If no one leaked our findings, then how exactly did you learn about the chisel, Warden Lagarde? Because it certainly couldn't have been when you checked Knight or Mr. Saint on their arrival. Indeed, such a thing would imply an intentional oversight if it had been found, yet let through. Precisely. So, Warden Lagarde, and answer truthfully this time. Where and when did you learn about the chess set? If you won't answer, then allow me. I submit that you... Alright, darling, there's no need to rub it in. You got me, alright? I questioned Knight. That was when I learned about the chess set. But please, you have to believe me. I did not kill him. One moment, Warden. This is a significant development. The court requests that you make a detailed statement on the record. Any objections, Mr. Edgeworth? None, Your Honor. Thank you, darlings. I'll clear up this awful misunderstanding, I promise. Very well. Go ahead, Warden Lagarde, and please, tell the truth this time. Her lies are starting to wear thin. This is my chance to expose her. I said I questioned Knight, but it wasn't anything serious, you understand. I make a point of talking to every newcomer in our little home. Knight was no different. We just had a little chat, you might call it. And after we talked, I had him taken back to his cell straight away. The more she lies, the more thoroughly she steals her fate. So it was simply a conversation with a new detainee. That seems entirely above board. Exactly, Verity, darling. I knew you'd understand.
Objection!
Well, I don't. What proof do you have to back up your statement? And why the fuck were you questioning him at 3 in the fucking morning? It's real weird. I suppose we shall see, won't we, Mr. Edgeworth? You may begin your cross-examination. I said I questioned Knight, but it wasn't anything serious, you understand. I guess we just press everything? Do the usual. Yes.
Hold it!
So am I right in assuming you talked to Knight the night before the show? Exactly, darling. It would have been, around 3 a.m. on the 27th. 3 a.m. That falls squarely within the window of time laid out on the autopsy report. That seems rather late for a friendly chat. Wouldn't he have been asleep? Normally, yes, but if you remember, a guard was attacked in his cell. We had to examine the scene of the crime, gather information. These things take time, sweetie. I assure you, he was wide awake. We all were. Regardless, I find it odd that you would choose to question him at such a late hour. Oh, you are a tease, aren't you? Ugh. Anyway, no matter how odd you think it is, I had him brought to me, and that's what happened. Must you really insist on questioning every last thing I say? I would appreciate if you never called me a dog or had to insinuate I have a boner ever again, Fender. My office, of course. Where else? Her office, which is where we believe the body was moved from. Would you mind appending what you just said to your testimony? Anything for you, darling.
Hold it!
Remind me where your office is. You've seen the sign in the detention center corridor, I imagine. That's it, sweetie. My offices are just up in there, a short walk from the holding cells. I understand that you also have access to the yard. Why, of course. That's where my gorgeous little garden is. Oh, I see where you're going with this. You're saying that's how I moved the body? You had the means and the opportunity. It's hardly impossible.
Overruled!
Hardly impossible proves nothing. You have no evidence for this assertion.
Objection!
There is no other way the body could have been moved.
Overruled!
Surely you haven't forgotten that it was Mr. Saint who dropped Mr. Knight's body down the well. I probably shouldn't push this any further for now. Okay.
Hold it!
And what did you and Knight speak about? Oh, nothing much. Just some small talk, really. I asked him about what animals he liked and what his hobbies were. His hobbies? Then I imagine you talked about chess. Oh, yes. I couldn't stop him talking about it, in fact. Even had a piece of paper covered with little notes about it in his cell. At least I think that's what they were about. So she's seen Knight's correspondence chess diagram. Knight was no different. We just had a little chat, you might call it.
Hold it!
How was he when you spoke to him? Oh, he was so open and honest, darling. What? Indeed. He was talking about one croissant and promoting a pawn. I suppose he must have been hungry. Okay. En passant and promoting a pawn. It seems he spared no one from his obsession with chess. I would promote a pawn. What would you promote them to, Mio? What job title does the pawn deserve? And after we talked, I had him taken back to his cell straight away. I hard time imagining Gumshoe saying peeps. Chummy, she killed the man detective. Warden Lagarde was the murderer. The evidence points to that conclusion and no other. Crustacean. Did I press the last statement? Or did I just go by it?
Hold it!
If he had really gone back to his cell, he would still be alive today. I did not press it. You really think I put the poor man right there in my office, don't you? But what would my motive have been, darling? I told you, I barely knew him. I'm no angel. I may have my grudges against Canis, but Knight has nothing to do with that animal. She really does hate Canis. Warden Lagarde, I must insist that you append that statement to your testimony. I can read, I can talk. I'm no angel. I have my grudges against Canis. Alright. Now I understand. Because, like, there's no way she didn't notice.
Objection!
Judge Gaviel, I'd like you to take a look at this. Notes about a game of chess. What is the significance of this, Mr. Edgeworth? It was found in Knight's cell, which is exactly where you said you saw it too. Warden Lagarde. But you didn't just see this game in Knight's cell, did you? You've seen it in Mr. Canis' cell too. What do you mean?
Objection!
Oh, come now. Don't tell me you haven't taken a look at the chessboard at maximum security. Her face is real funny. I imagine you watch his every move like a hawk. Or rather, I imagine you feel that doing so is your only option. Personally, interrogating your own prisoners is highly irregular, to say the least. But as you said, Mr. Canis had threatened you. He put your precious home at risk. That's why you took it upon yourself to question him. You wanted to find out who his dogs were. And so what if I did? You also told us you read his letters, which means you must have known about one key fact. You knew he was playing correspondence chess. I touched that once, you touched it twice. You touched it 3 times. You made the thing that's gonna show up next week. And then who should appear but Knight, carrying with him a diagram of a very particular game. We ourselves use that diagram to infer a connection between the two men. And it seems you came to the same conclusion. But in your fear, you took your reasoning one step further. You surmised that Knight was Mr. Canis' henchman, sent to kill you. And when you questioned Knight, you made another discovery. For there, inside his chest set, you found a hidden chisel. The murder weapon itself. As far as you were concerned, that chisel meant one thing, Canis. And thus you convinced yourself that Knight was working for Canis, and that is why you killed him. I see you have no more excuses. Judge Gaviel, your verdict, please. Much as it grieves me, there would appear to be little room for doubt. I hereby give my verdict. Bronco Knight was murdered by... In the name of the goddess of justice, who is it this time? Warden. It's a joke. It's all a big, stupid joke. You people just don't get it, do you? I think we've proven it's the you who didn't understand things correctly. Me? Please, darling, I understand it all perfectly well, thank you very much. Damn, look at her little fox go. Fox spin wiggle. Zoomies. Are there two foxes? It's hard to tell. And I understand that there's a glaring contradiction in your theory, Mr. Edgeworth. You're just grasping at straws now. I have no time for this. You're on the verdict.
Overruled.
I am curious to hear what the warden has to say. What? You're a doll, Verity. I just have one last thing to say. Then Mr. Edgeworth can declare himself the winner. No, Eustace. Fuck off. Does anybody remember a certain autopsy report? Of course, we received the finalized version only this morning. That's right, and I was listening to what you told us about it, Verity, even if nobody else was. You said the wound was 4 inches deep. 4 inches? Wait. Riddle me this, Mr. Edgeworth. How does a tiny chisel make a 4-inch wound? Ugh. Forgive me, oh goddess. I came perilously close to making a terrible mistake. Looks like your theory is the one that doesn't hold water, Edgeworth. What now? He gets the job done, it's not about the size. Eh? I'm not Phoenix. Someone help me. Milesltron? Eddie, knock it off. What is the first mind-blowing thing that comes to you? We're definitely not Phoenix right. Phoenix would just be like, well, objection, because I have an itch on my dick. I'm certain that Warden Lagarde is the killer. The only explanation that fits the facts of this case. But if the chisel wasn't the murder weapon, what other blade is there here in this facility? It seems we still do not have all the answers, nor the evidence that proves those answers. Alas, we must wait until the trial to see this matter resolved, I'm afraid.
Objection!
What you got?
Overruled.
Are you calling the judicial process into question, Mr. Fender? Please don't hit me with your big stick. What is the real murder weapon, since it's clearly not the chisel? Confound it, this question throws everything we've deduced out the window. Hit me with your big stick, please, ma'am. Nothing to add, Mr. Edgeworth. Allow me to remind you that claims not supported by sufficient evidence are subject to the harshest penalties. It's hopeless. I can't think of anything. I need more time. Loath as I am to admit it, Now what? I don't give a fuck about Simeon. He's very, very sad. Just a sad little shy boy. Oh yeah, that was his best friend they found in the well. Okay. Not particularly. I'm not. I don't have heartstrings to pull, but I suppose. Judge Gabriel. You seem to have recovered your composure, Mr. Edgeworth. But if you mean to attempt a defense, I would advise you to consider the ramifications. You have repeatedly proposed misguided theories and have made numerous false accusations. If you do so again, I will have no choice but to judge you unfit to serve as prosecutor and relieve you of your badge for good. She's right. I have put forward a number of theories that prove to be flawed in one way or another. Have I made some sort of fundamental oversight? Wait, she said my theories were misguided. Nothing to say, then court will tolerate no more of your time wasting. I hereby... give my verdict. That's it. I've been thinking about it the wrong way all this time. My theories weren't misguided, I was being misled. The defendant, Simeon... I think it's a little soon for that, Your Honor. I'd say it's well past due, darling. Wouldn't you agree, Verity? Mr. Edgeworth, you may proceed. What? I'd like to remind you of a few things. The sighting of his dog, Helmet, the fact that he wasn't at the show. These and other factors have made Mr. Canis the obvious suspect at first. This again, Mr. Edgeworth. You seem proud of your blunder. But what if the real killer wanted us to suspect Mr. Canis? What if it was all carefully arranged? And what if the same was true of the chisel, our purported murder weapon? What? Knight had been stabbed multiple times in the same place with a bladed instrument. What if he was stabbed with the chisel after the real murder weapon had been removed? Just to leave traces of blood on it for us to find. That was how the killer misled us into thinking the chisel was a murder weapon. But why mislead us in this way? Why indeed? Why make us think the chisel is a murder weapon rather than whatever was really used? In order to get Canis transferred. Warden, you took advantage of what the chisel seemed to suggest. What it suggested? What are you talking about, darling? Mr. Winner, if I were to tell you the murder weapon was a chisel, what would you think? And there you have it. That was the trap the warden set for us. Indeed, that was her plan right from the start. To frame Canis. Your reasoning would appear to be sound. Warden Lagarde certainly seems to harbor a deep and abiding hatred for Mr. Canis. However, I think you know what I'm going to say. That alone is not sufficient proof that Warden Lagarde is the killer. I knew that wouldn't be enough. There's only one thing that will prove it. The real murder weapon that we now know must exist. If you cannot prove your theory, then this conversation ends here.
Objection!
If we could just find the real murder weapon.
Objection!
Eustace is quite correct. No other possible murder weapon has been found, so I'm afraid that you're at a bit of an impasse.
Objection!
I can still prove my case yet, Your Honor, just because it's still here inside this prison. This would have made sure of that. I'm glad you at least remember what it is. And you do remember what it does. Not an idiot at all. Precisely. There is another murder weapon. It cannot have been taken off the premises. But nor can it be brought into the prison in the first place. So we find ourselves right back again where we were. Judge Gabrielle. What I'm trying to tell you, Mr. Edgeworth, is that if you wish me to believe that there's another murder weapon here in the prison, you will also have to explain to me how it got here. Alright, we know that the chisel was smuggled into the prison inside a pocket chess set. But our contention is that the chisel is not the real murder weapon. So if the weapon came from the outside of the facility, then there must have been a way to break it in. Yes, the question of the hour is this. Can you show me this alternate route? Ugh. How did the weapon Warden Lagarde used get into the prison? Of course, that's how. The fact that this is here with us shows how the bladed object could have been brought into this facility. The bell.
Take that!
Allow me to remind you of our conversation with Mr. Canis yesterday. So you see, there is a way for objects to be brought into the prison unscrutinized. As part of the evidence Warden Lagarde borrowed from the police. Sorry. Give me a moment. Sorry, I'm muted. Something was caught in my throat. Yeah, I just chugged a bunch of my drinks. Mr. Canis's knife was part of the evidence in the case against him, and that evidence was here in the prison. Oh, now I'm upside down. Not only that, but the knife had a certain bell attached to it. My tea! It's gonna spill. The bell was attached to the chisel? Correct. The killer took the bell from the knife and attached it to the chisel. Easy enough to explain if the killer wore gloves. She made it look as if the chisel was the murder weapon and then attached the bell to it. In doing so, she made sure that all the evidence pointed to Mr. Canis. And who had access to the evidence from which the bell was taken? Why, the only person to whom it had been entrusted. Gumshoe, I need you to pay attention. I believe that would be you. Isn't that correct, Warden Lagarde? Bells aren't exactly rare, you know. Anybody could have set that up.
Objection!
Unluckily for you, that isn't quite true. These particular bells are unique because there are only 2 of them in existence. I was wondering why my sprite was so far left it so that I could do the point. What? By attaching the bell to the chisel, you as good as declared yourself the killer. But you don't have any proof that the knife was ever even here to begin with. I don't, not yet anyway. Mr. Winner, I'd like you to order another search of the prison right away. This isn't about what's convenient for you. We have to find the truth. You're a prosecutor, aren't you? Well, this worthless excuse for a prosecutor. If I had investigative authority, I wouldn't be sitting on it. You know full well she will do no such thing. You have the power to insist on a search. Use it. Sorry, darling, but not without... But not without that evidence. The goddess of justice cannot bestow her blessing on those who lack proof to support their claims. Our work here is done. The rest of this matter will have to be settled in the courtroom. No, if we give Lagarde the opportunity, she'll destroy whatever evidence is left. I have to object. I have to stop them. But what do I say? I don't have anything concrete to offer. What am I thinking? I'm never this reckless. No, I can't back down now. I've got to put everything on the line. I'm not a prosecutor right now. I'm an associate attorney with a client to defend. Only I can save Mr. Saint, and that means... Even if my chances are 1,000,000 to 1, it's still worth a shot. Sad boy hours, indeed. Object! I suppose this must be how a certain serial bluffer always feels. He's just always on your mind, isn't he? You just can't resist thinking about Phoenix. Regardless, I cannot walk away.
Objection!
Wait, Your Honor. This had better be good, Mr. Edgeworth. I've got it. Got what exactly? The real murder weapon, of course. I know where Mr. Canis's knife is. Do you really, Mr. Edgeworth? No. I do. Not at all. If I did not know better, I would say that you were bluffing. You wound me, Your Honor. I don't know the meaning of the word. This is terrible for my heart. There's no way you could. It's not here, I tell you. Well, would you be so kind as to enlighten us? Where's the real murder weapon? Think, Miles, think. Somewhere not even the police would search. A blind spot in this zoo. Hiding place that the warden could be absolutely sure of. A hiding place? No. Her big ass coat? Nope. Who's your papas? Who's your papas? Speaking of, we had to give Ruger back to roommate's sister, so we no longer have a puppy to pet. Did she use the same trick? No, that's ridiculous, isn't it? But the more I think about it, no more puppies. How many foolproof ways to evade detection could there be? Mr. Edgeworth, how long do you intend to keep us waiting? There's the faintest possibility I'm right, but if I'm wrong, we stand to lose everything. Your Honor, this is where the real murder weapon is hidden. Well,
Take that!
here, in the yard. Indeed. I don't believe I understand. Would you care to explain a little more? Where exactly is the real murder weapon hidden? Inside an alligator. That's where she set off the thing. Of course. That's what it must have been. What's the matter, detective? The big metal alligator. The metal detector was reacting to something inside her after all. Your Honor, I'd like to remind you of this piece of evidence. The chisel. You might recall that Mr. Canis hid this chisel in his dog's mouth. Would you believe that the real murder weapon was hidden much the same way? That's right, the murder weapon is hidden inside the alligator in that pond over there. You always rely on Kay to do the why? We detected the presence of a metallic object during our early investigation. Judge Gavial, we need to know what's inside that alligator. Understood. Then we will need to summon a veterinarian. Hell yeah, Regina, let's go. Let's go, let's go. Please, by all means. Fuck yeah. Who's a good girl? Warden the guard. The real murder weapon is about to be revealed. Why not do the right thing and confess? I have nothing to confess. As you wish, then you can simply wait and watch as your lies are exposed. Hell yeah. What you got? What you got for me? It's over, Fifi Lagarde. The real murder weapon was Carnus's knife, making you the only person who could have killed Bronco Knight. I'm not the criminal here. This is all Cadis's doing. I did the right thing. Knight was a threat. He was Cadis's dog. Curse that despicable man, Cadis. Why did he have to come and ruin my perfect little home? We could have been happy forever if it wasn't for him. He ruined my paradise on Earth. He ruined everything. Curse him because that painless butcher, that awful terrible man. Curse him. I'm not doing that scream. My voice is already dying. Her friends left her naked. Prosecutor's the winner. Winner? I guess we've all been under a lot of stress. With rage. She had many massive puppies. Yeah, she had some tatas. Also, what is your bra doing, woman? Like, what? What magic is your bra? Like, do you just have a shelf that you put your boobs on under there? Like, what's going on? Why do your tatas point upward? Excellent work, Eustace. Just a few loose ends to tie up and we're done. I just solved the case, didn't I? You sure did. We have yet to confirm whether or not Knight really was working for Mr. Carnus. Yep. It will be vital to know if Warden the Guard was simply jumping to conclusions on that front. There's Clueless, and then there's you. Elegant boob shelf. Well. You don't have a voice. I don't need to voice Eustace. I might have to later, and I'll have to figure out a voice for him. But enough people had a voice in this one, we're done. I gave him a voice for like a minute when I had to like interview him, but you'd voice up Eustace? I mean, I could open up the thing. I expect this case will cause quite a stir. Eustace's bag. The attempted murder of a president is news enough, and now his would-be assassin has been murdered. But Knight never sought to kill the president in the first place. The truth is not always as important as it might seem, Mr. Edgeworth. In the eyes of both society and the law. You do not have to believe me, however. As a prosecutor, Mr. Edgeworth is obliged to accept that this is the reality of the world he operates in. Being a prosecutor is more than proving people guilty, and that's what I believe. We are all free to believe as we choose, but the law is not to be toyed with for our own personal goals. If you refuse to accept this, then you must prepare to suffer the consequences. I'm afraid I must be going now. Farewell, Mr. Edgeworth. Yeah, see you later, bitch. Get the fuck away from me forever. Judge Gaviel is right. There must be only one set of laws for everyone. But if following the law means sacrificing the truth, then I really do that in good conscience. Hey, Simeon. I almost called him Simon. Not his name. Hey, it's Money! Hi, Regina. Yeah, they did. Are you, buddy? Bye, mommy. Edgeworth flusters everyone with just a gaze. Thank you, Regina. I'm glad to see that your happiness has not dulled since your father was murdered. Mr. Say talking directly to me? Small victories, I suppose. Go for it. Sure. I'm not actually an attorney, though. But now? Mr. Saint, I think you're forgetting something. Should show him the thing that proves the knight trusted him.
Take that!
Yes, this definitely shows that he trusted you and wasn't just using you like a little pawn. Knight had hidden a chisel inside. I imagine he meant to use it to escape. No, he believed in you. Edgeworth, buddy. He knew he could count on you to bring it, and that you would never be so untrusting as to look inside. I imagine that by not telling you, he was hoping he could keep you from getting caught up in his mess. Simeon's no dummy, uh-oh. That's a weird thing to say, Regina. Not everybody is like you. That's not as complimentary as you think it is. And that's the spirit. So when I first played this, I found Simon/Simeon, this dude, I found him rather endearing, but I don't anymore. I find him annoying in this one. I don't know why. Oh, thank you. The one, the only, the very big circus is back! Oh, here's Max. I really did like you until I found out that you were trying to court a teenager. Here's Regent. Here's the elephant. There's a fucking balloon back here for some reason. Yeah, I really liked him until I found out that he wanted to marry Regina. Well, I'll think about it. A nicer kitty cat. Except for the one that, like, killed one of my coworkers once. That was my lion. Brr. Let's go brr. Another satisfied customer. Please don't call me Smiles, I swear to God. I couldn't have done it without you, Fender. Without your timely intervention, she would have gotten away. Besides, I have you to thank for even being able to investigate the case in the first place. Topple over. I suppose it would be asking too much for you to take this seriously. I love Miles's like weird lizard smile. To be an attorney. That's good. Bittersweet. I'm not sure. Excuse me. No, you weren't. The hell you were. Thunder, I am a prosecutor. Don't hold your breath, old man. Bye, dipshit. Follow in my father's footsteps. Could I really do such a thing? I'm going to become a defense attorney just like my dad. An attorney like my father. Me?